that you'd still like to visit? Absolutely. Not only are there places I'd like to go to, but there's places I'd like to go back to and investigate more thoroughly. One would definitely be Iran, and I was in Iran, but I was only in Tehran, and I'd like to leave Tehran and go to other parts of the country. I had a really good time there. I'd like to get to New Guinea, and I've been to Australia about 37 times. I've never taken the time to go up to New Guinea, and whenever I'm free to go, it's like the rainy season or it's the wrong time of the year to go, but I really want to go there. I'd like to get back to Afghanistan if I could go there without something going south. And in Afghanistan, it can go south incredibly fast. But I would like to go through the Panjshir Valley before it's all over. Just I'm fascinated with that part of the world. I'd like to get to the South Georgian Islands. Hopefully I'll be there in November. I was in Antarctica 2 years ago, and I promised all the scientists on the ship, I said, I will be back if I can. And they said, look, come back on this ship and come out with us, but we have a different trip we do where it's like longer, and we start in the South Georgian Islands, and then we go to the edge of the Antarctic Peninsula. Come on that trip. And I've been in touch with some of the scientists and some of the staff on that ship this year, hoping to get back with them later this year. So I hope to do that and take a longer trip and learn more about the bottom of the world and global climate change, biodiversity, and codependent ecosystems. I've been to Africa, I don't know how many times, 20 some times, but I'd like to get more into the interior of Africa, Chad, Congo. I've made a lap around the edges of it, and over the years I've been making trips into the interior, like Mali, Uganda, South Sudan, but I'd like to keep going more and more and more. I'd like to get to Congo. I'd like to do more West African travel, Niger, Ghana, like kind of southwest. And so I'd like to do much more African travel. I'd like to do a lot more travel in Southeast Asia. I'd like to get to the interior of Vietnam. I've been there a bunch, but I've only been like Hanoi or Saigon. I'd like to go in like to Hue or Da Nang, and where the Marines first landed. I'd like to go inland from there, land on the coast and go straight in. I'd like to spend more time in Laos. Definitely want to spend more time in Cambodia and also Burma. Let's see, where else? I've never been to the Philippines, so I'd like to go to the Philippines. I don't want to get abducted by Abu Sayyaf, but I'd like to go. I'd like to go to the Falklands, which I'll probably do the next time if I can get down to Ushuaia, where I picked up the ship to go to the edge of the Antarctic Peninsula. I'll just go there and go east, right, and go to the Falkland Islands. And so those are a few of the places I'd like to go. There's a lot of really small islands whose names are escaping me right now, but they are actually countries, and they're this damn big. They're like big like Guam. Like you could throw a rock across them. But I'd like to get to a lot of those. I've never been to Malta. Pretty much anywhere I have not been. I'm just a curious person. I've been to almost every country in the Middle East, but I've never been to Yemen, and I don't know if I will get to Yemen. I've been to Syria, but I never got to Aleppo, and there's nothing left of Aleppo. I was only in Damascus, and I had a great time. And so I'm a curious person, and I travel whenever I can, as far and as wide as I can. This year, my schedule's not determined yet, because now that this tour's over, I'm busted down to nothing, and I go back to Hollywood and basically beg for work, auditions, meetings, etc. And so if I get my year defined, I'll know when I'm not working and I can go travel. And so I'm waiting for that. Here's a great question. What is a must-have album for any record collection? This is a question asked by Chad. I have lots of suggestions. Just a few. Black Sabbath's album, Master of Reality. I had a conversation with Tony Iommi, the guitar player. I said, that's the best tone you ever got was on Master of Reality, and he agreed. It's a perfect Black Sabbath album. It's their third album. It's just magnificent. First Velvet Underground record is amazing. The second Velvet Underground album, White Light, White Heat, perfect album. Last album with John Cale. The first television album, called Marquee Moon, is just a gorgeous, beautiful album. It'll go right into you. Anything of John Coltrane, 1964 to the end of his life, starting with The Love Supreme when he first signed on to Impulse, and started working with Bob Thiele, the great producer. Actually, there's no Coltrane record you should be without, but he really found himself by 63 or 64. He really got it, got that read just right, found himself. perfect. Are You Experienced by Jimi Hendrix in mono. Mono's how you really want to hear it. Funhouse by the Stooges. Actually, the first three Stooges albums, the Stooges, Funhouse, and Raw Power, are kind of indispensable in my opinion. First MC5 album, Kick Out the Jams, is great, as is the third one, High Time. Let's see, first Clash album, the first Damned album, the first Wire album called Pink Flag. It's a perfect bit of work. First Buzzcocks album called Another Music in a Different Kitchen. The only X-Ray Specs album that ever was made called Germ-Free Adolescence. Polly Styrene, the singer of the band, she passed away in 2009 from breast cancer. I miss her every day. She was a genius. Hot Buttered Soul by Isaac Hayes is the album I mentioned on stage. And also the Shaft soundtrack. It's one of those records, everyone's heard the Shaft theme, but it's a double album, and the rest of the record is just incredible. You see why it won an Oscar. There's one song on it called Do Your Thing, and it takes up the entire side of the record. It's like 18 minutes, and it's really, really good. I hung out with Isaac Hayes one night. We had dinner, and we talked for hours. And he was a really deep guy, very, very humble, and had great stories about living at Stax and just working and writing great music. Let's see. The album by Joy Division called Unknown Pleasures. It's their first record. It's just as good as anything I've ever heard. I like pretty much any David Bowie record, but I'm very partial to Station, Low, Heroes, Lodger, and Scary Monsters. I just think that's like my kind of David Bowie. But of course, Ziggy Stardust, Hunky Dory, Aladdin Sane, it's all really, really good. Space Oddity, of course. Those are all must-have records. But the best way to hear a bunch of must-have records, it's free. I have a radio show on KCRW, and there's a kid in Ireland. We met him last year, one of the first shows of the tour. He has a website called Rollins Archive.